NFL podcast. We'll always honor past heroes.
From the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's the Around the NFL podcast. Dan Hans is here with Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler. We have a little bit of a crisis at home.
Oh.
You know, I like to keep my personal life private on some level, but when something really bubbles out up inside the house, I'd like to get your thoughts as fellow fathers.
Okay.
Jack Hanses, age 7. He's in first grade. He's at the age now where he's starting to, I think, like my first crush was on my first grade teacher. We get a call from
Allowed to unpack already?
What?
I don't know why Mark and I's first reaction was to look at Erica for her reaction.
Why are you guys so weird? You don't know that boys get crushes on their teachers?
That's
I'm not
normal.
a stranger
That's
to that.
fine.
It's just,
That's
that was
normal.
an interesting nugget.
Does everything need to have like looks shared between each other? Can I tell a story?
Well, Dan, that's fine.
What?
Nothing. No, I think it's very cute.
It's cute.
Yeah, have your way. Like keep going with the tale.
No, well, now the story's been delayed, so now the story might get overlong.
Yeah, careful. You don't want to, upset Greg with a long story.
That was before the show.
I don't think you can just stop the story now.
You should have heard the tension between Ricky and Greg before the show started today.
It is uncomfortable.
Let's hear the
My
story.
goodness. Anyway, Jack has a after-school teacher, and she called my wife and said, "Hey, heads up." Jack kind of pulled me aside and took out a $20 bill from his backpack and said, "Here, I wanted to give this to you because you do such a great job." That was my $20 bill.
That's so cute.
She didn't take the money, which, good test of her morals, her moral judgment. Reported it back to the wife. And then I mentioned it to the text thread that my family's on. And Keith, my dad, who's, he's the old man. He had this to say. "Bottom line is the wallet was your possession, not his to take and give away. He also secretly took the money. It was nice that he was giving it away with appreciation. How are you going to handle this?"
Oh, so he took
I just got that text.
He took the 20 out of your wallet.
My son denied that he took it out of the wallet.
So where'd he get it?
He took it out of my wallet. He said he found it on the kitchen table. That's not what happened.
So
how
are
do we
you?
handle this?
This guy sounds like a real romantic. He'll steal from his own
Yeah.
father to impress the lady. And
So is that really what happened, or did he take the $20 bill out and say, "You want this 20? You got to dance for it, teach"?
Well, no, I don't know if it had. I think there
Teach.
was an innocence to it. But also, my son has, I think, there's something special in him. But he's either going to be a great leader of people or a leader of an army force against like cyborgs, like T2, like a John Connor situation.
Okay.
Or evil. So I need to make sure he's on the right path. How do we handle this? We let him off the hook? We give him a pass?
Well, I think you explain that you don't take other people's possessions, that's important. But that if you are, having feelings for someone, you have a crush on someone, giving them money, that's a good move. You just give them money.
I'm kind of really impressed.
So it's like a little of both.
I'm impressed with his
Thank you,
actions on some level.
To
mine his way into your wallet and steal a 20 and understand that would be a lot of
not
money
a 5,
to give a teacher. No.
Not a 1, not even a 10.
And when you mention that, one of his paths could be like the leader of some sort of like apocalyptic thug gang, I mean, this would be a formative moment. Do you want to suppress that if that's maybe what he's supposed to be?
That's Mark's dream for his kids. So
I'm just saying. I mean, maybe,
right
he's telling you, here's my skills and my gifts.
All right. Well, thank you for the input, and I will address this and give you guys an update at a later date. Week 9. Later tonight, you're going to hear from me and maybe some guests on the Jets and Colts, how that went. Everybody listening that's already going to know the outcome, just know that I knew what was coming and they couldn't hurt me. Just remember that. The Jets cannot hurt me anymore, and the football gods
I'm
need
not
to
doing
know
that. I am not doing that.
This is week 9. Here we are. This is the midpoint of the NFL season this week. Once we're through the games, and we have a nice slate of games, another week with some big favorites. I think that might be there's something cooking here. That there's a lot of – is there more bad teams
It
this
seems
year?
like bigger spreads than in a long time.
Is this how it always is, or does this feel like there's a few more bad teams this year?
The truly bad teams don't seem like they can compete. I think there is something to that.
Interesting. Anyway, we have big news, obviously, that came down on Wednesday with Aaron Rodgers, and that is something we'll unpack a little bit later. But let us start with the primetime games. Let's get into the preview. And, yes, Gravedigger's back, by the way, behind the glass. And I actually –
courageously.
I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but I think maybe he didn't appreciate the assumption that he didn't come to work because he was so upset about the Derrick Henry injury because he is a professional who does his job well. So an apology to the Gravedigger.
Yeah, he's such a professional. He'll be at the Titans game while we're all taping our Sunday podcast.
How about that?
Yeah,
Titans.
We're still learning about Gravedigger, I think.
Titans 6-2 at Rams 7-1 Sunday Night Football at SoFi Stadium, and we all know what's going on here. The Titans. This is a team that's been surging, that has been on a real hot streak, that puts them at the top of the AFC as we speak right now. And yet they lost Derrick Henry. And it's going to be, Mark, a test, isn't it? Like the old, how important is a running back really in the NFL? Well, the guy that everyone knows is more important to his team than any other running back exits. Do the Titans exit from the conversation as a contender?
I don't think so, because as much as they have been reliant on him over the years, it's not all they are. I thought it was interesting that Todd Downing, their play caller, basically said he would be doing a disservice to the entire offense to get away from their run-oriented approach. But you're going to have to be different, and you're going to have to rely more on Tannehill and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's coming off 2 big weeks, but this week specifically, suddenly you're dealing with a defense that was already a big headache. And I know it was the Texans, but there are clips out there and tape of like them wrecking Houston's front and making life hell for Davis Mills. And now you've got Tennessee having to deal with not only Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, who will be on A.J. Brown, but also you throw Von Miller into the mix. I think they're going to do something spicy with him, and it just seems like for the Titans' offensive line and who they want to be, you're going to find out right away this is an acid test, I think.
Right, having 2 pass rushers in Donald and Floyd that's great, especially when one of them's the greatest of all time. You add a third, and suddenly it's just like impossible to avoid one-on-one matchups where either Floyd or Miller are going to be in good situations, and the Titans haven't really pass protected well this year. They're 6-2 despite some things going against them, the injuries in the secondary, the offensive line, and yet they're about to finish the toughest 4-game stretch they could possibly have, and I feel like every week we're like, well, this will really tell us something about the Titans. They beat the Bills. This will tell us something about the Titans. They beat the Chiefs. Like, this should be the letdown game against the Colts, team that knows them. They get that win. So when I saw the line in this game, 7.5, feels a little disrespectful. I don't know if Adrian Peterson is ready in his first game to be the full Adrian Peterson that maybe he could be in 3 or 4 weeks, where at least he's like at least he's solid.
Can we be honest about what Adrian Peterson is in the first place? What we saw last year was a very middle-of-the-road guy up there in years at this point. He's not special anymore.
He's not special, but I think just as a pure runner, like a pure power runner, he was average to better than average of NFL players.
Okay. And
starters.
has taken no
So I
punishment.
think he'd be solid.
So.
But even understanding that, it's kind of a lot to ask to just like come off whatever he was doing and just play a lot this game. You'll probably see a lot of Jeremy McNichols. So maybe Vegas is asking you to have the Titans keep it close. But I believe in Tannehill. I think they will make it a fun game.
That's why I didn't ding the Titans in the power rankings after Henry's injury, because I think they've earned at this point the respect with their play in recent weeks to say, okay, let's see, you are a well-coached team. You still have your quarterback. We all know as long as you have your starting quarterback, you usually can keep your head above water. So I'm not ready to say the Titans are cooked, and I'm interested to see how this plays out. It's a great experiment. It does put a lot more pressure on Julio Jones to have a real role on this team, and if he could stay healthy, make this a better passing team, because I think they'll have to be to
He's
survive.
got to play after missing a couple games.
Can we talk about Cooper
snaps.
Kupp? And I know maybe we are talking a lot about Cooper Kupp, or maybe we're not talking about it enough. I just want to go his game log, because doesn't it seem like he's always having a big game this year? It's because he is. Here we go. 7 for 108 and 1. That was week 1. 9 for 163 and 2. 9 for 96 and 2. 5 for 64. 7 for 92. 9 for 130 and 2. 10 for 156 and 2. 7 for 115 and 1. And this is from NFL Media Research. Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp have connected on 10 touchdown passes this season, most by the duo in the NFL, second most by a QB pass catcher in the first 8 games since 1970. And this stat, Kupp is the only player in the Super Bowl era since 1966 with 900 yards and 10 receiving touchdowns in his team's first 8 games of a season. I'm not looking.
Whoa!
I'm not just trying
It's
to
the best start ever.
Regurgitate stats at you, but I think we need to start looking at what's happening here as a historic season. And this is just like something I don't think anybody predicted this, and yet here we are. He's the back-to-back player of the month on offense.
I'm not surprised that some of these records in general will be broken by some quarterback and wide receiver out there in 2021, stuff from the mid 2000s and before. But this is truly special because anyone preparing for the Rams knows every game that this is what Cooper Kupp is, how he's going to be used, what he's going to do, and he's still doing it.
I think he has a chance for 2,000 yards, which would be wild. From a receiver. You get the 17th game, that helps, but he's almost on pace for 2,000 right now. So you'd have to pick it up a little. That's asking. But the thing that I think people miss on Kupp is how often it's just every play that he makes the first guy miss. And I think it's not just about that they scheme him open and he's a good route runner and he gets deep. He almost always makes the first guy miss. It reminds me a little bit of Lamar or Herbert in the pocket, where it's like they almost don't even worry about the first guy. Like the first guy they've got, and then they got to figure out what to do after that. And Kupp's at that level. Deebo Samuel's at that level. Two of the better yak receivers that we've seen in a long time.
They're kind of both not getting discussed enough, but maybe I think we're getting a tipping point with Kupp where, he's getting mentioned every show.
I believe so. I think it's a field goal game. What do you guys think?
That's what I had, 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. I definitely go Rams.
I wonder if there's any bit with the Rams after playing these 3 cupcakes in a row. Is there will there be any shock of this is what playing a real team's like? They literally just played the Giants at their worst in terms of injuries, and then the Lions and the Texans. Maybe it's like a shock.
No, they don't strike me under Sean McVay to be suddenly stunned by an actual contender coming in.
I want to get a heat check on Gravedigger. I want to see if he's just chucking up threes from 35 feet and if he thinks his team's going to win this weekend. An honest assessment, prediction of the game, Justin, as someone who knows the team better than any of us.
I think that there could be some element of surprise where if you are playing against the Derrick Henry Titans, you know exactly what your defensive game plan is, and this 1 week could provide – that's probably only lasts a half, but it could give the Titans a spark early on. I think this could be a week the Titans fall short for sure. It's an NFC game. It doesn't really matter that much for their playoff standings, but it would be nice to keep that AFC 1 seed locked up.
All right, give me a score.
I will go
Heat check.
Rams 38, Titans 30.
Oh, okay.
Jeez.
Wow.
They didn't even cover.
So the defense won't show up in this spot. It's tough. It's the Rams.
Rough.
All right. They'll be okay. As he's saying, though, it will matter if the Colts somehow get hot in the standings. But at 6-3, an NFC loss, you'll be okay heading into Week 10. Let's move to the Monday night football game between the Chicago Bears, who always seem to get on the primetime schedule regardless of what they put out on the field, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 4-3. We know what happened in Cleveland last Sunday. Pittsburgh outlasting the Browns in a kind of a classic AFC North slugfest, a slobber knocker. So they are now above 500 at 4-3 after that 1-3 start, and looking very much like kind of the type of Steelers team that could find its way to the playoffs potentially. The Chicago Bears on the meanwhile, Greg, 3-5. They lost last week, but at the same time, there were some reasons to be excited watching them for the first time in a while, and it starts behind center.
Justin Fields is a roller coaster like a lot of rookie QB, especially ones that struggle, and he struggled on balance, where the good games like last week were really good. I thought that was his best game of the season. I don't know if I don't think it's Nagy not being there, but I do like the idea that Bill Lazor is figuring out ways to get the best out of Fields. And if nothing else, they're telling him run the ball more because he is an incredible runner. There's only 2 design runs on those 10 runs, so it was a lot of just scrambling. But when he had the first read open, he hit it. And I think this is a winnable game for them if they had Khalil Mack and Eddie Jackson. We don't really know. Eddie Jackson, their former All-Pro safeties, struggled a little bit this year. Got hurt early in last week's game, and Khalil Mack didn't play for the first time as a Bear. And their defense, which had been competitive, was terrible a week ago. And if you're competitive, I think you stay in the game against the Steelers. The Steelers are about 2 plays away from scoring, 6 points against the Browns. You got a couple fourth downs, and it's like they're working hard for their points. So if Khalil Mack and Eddie Jackson's out there, I think we could have like a fun game. Close game.
I think it could be close. I don't really trust the Bears on any level compared to the Steelers, and I think you saw Pittsburgh's offensive line start to dominate Cleveland down the stretch in that game. And it's been a long journey for that. They're very young and they're still learning how to kind of mesh. But that
running
was
the ball. Yeah,
right. That was very helpful, I thought, for them in that situation. And Tomlin is 22-4 against rookie starters. But I'm with you on Fields. There have been moments, obviously, before the Niners game where you saw it and you just want him to get more comfortable. But I thought that his athleticism took over last week, and on the ground he was a total factor, and I thought he saw the ball better, and he was throwing the ball beyond the sticks and using there was one of his tight ends, Cole Kmet, dropped the ball in the end zone. I mean, that game could have been even closer.
Scored 7 times in 9 drives. He had a great game.
I think Khalil Herbert also has been there have been a number of good rookie running backs, but he has been awesome for them.
It kind of got wiped away because San Francisco's offense got hot, but the touchdown run, the 22-yard touchdown run, well, let's listen to it. Let's hear Jeff Joniak with the call, because I thought that was the moment where Bears fans were like, okay, all right, I know this has been a tough season, but there's something special here potentially. Let's listen in.
Football at the 21-yard line. It's 4th down. Here we go. Sun comes out. Bears down 7. 9:52 clock running here in the 4th. Fields with 8 on the play clock, trying to get everybody set. Mooney in motion to the right. Fields now brings him back the other way. On the take. Fields was going to do something with it, but it was not this. He's trying to get out of trouble. Breaks out of a tackle left. To the 15, 10, 5, end zone, touchdown! Touchdown Bears! 22-yard ad-lib play. A broken play turns into 6 for Justin Fields.
It was a electrifying moment in that game, and the first electrifying moment around the Bears that I can remember in a long time, to be quite honest with you. So let's see more of that, Matt Nagy. Do not put this guy in shackles. Let him be loose. Let him make mistakes, but also make sure you don't overload him and let him be what he is, which is a young quarterback, a young athletic quarterback. We'll see if that happens.
What is more, the one thing that's happened with Corona is that it seems like almost every time a head coach is out, the team thrives. And it's like if you're Nagy, on top of everything else that you're dealing with critique-wise, that's this thing out there, maybe they're just better without their head coach in the building.
The game they flipped to Laser as the play caller was his best game, or first good game, and then the game he missed. They have
the Laser leap, they call it.
I don't know, though. I'm just not buying the Steelers because their passing game is so bad. And any teams that whose passing game is that bad, is going to keep the other team in the game.
Do we think that maybe, by the way, Allen Robinson can get involved in the Bears' offense this season?
He has crossed 50 yards once all year, twice. It's just he's got to be frustrated.
All right, let's get to the draft now. So primetime games out of the way. The Bucs, Lions, Seahawks, and Washington all on a bye. And this week, Mark Sessler has the first overall pick.
Well, this may be the last time that I do this, depending on how this shakes out. But I am going to pick the Browns one more time at Cincinnati because I think, first of all, it's not some zero stakes game. It has been a dramatic week.
It's a big one.
We can get into it.
It's maybe the best 1 p.m. game or
ever.
10 a.m. game.
Ever, according to Greg.
Just this week. I'm saying it's probably the best one. That's Romo's there, your boy.
I've made it clear how I feel about that dynamic. But it would be the perfect week for Romo to be there, and not commentating what's gone down all week long, Dan, with the Odell Beckham scenario.
You know what? So someone explain this one to me, because now the Beckham doesn't get traded. We talked about it on Tuesday. The LeBron tweet, Odell Sr. with the Instagram message, and then he doesn't practice, and he's not practicing again on Thursday, and they're excused absences, and the reporting out there is that he's not going to play for the Browns again. This feels like a unique situation because it's not a contract squabble, right? It's not a situation where he's unhappy with his playing time. He's the starting outside wide receiver for the Browns. He just doesn't like the quarterback, and he's essentially, to me, a rat jumping off a ship that's sinking, only the ship's not really sinking. So Odell has always been, to me, kind of a me-first dude. He was that guy with the Giants, and that was part of the risk when you brought him to Cleveland. So Cleveland, I guess, left itself open for something like this to happen. But at the end of the day, I don't think this is some Browns catastrophe. Rather, Odell being Odell and not really being a team guy, and I think it's just such a bad look for him.
I think also we live in a like in America where people forget anything that happened like a week ago for the most part. So this is a drama they have to deal with and move on. But for me, what it vibed as for me a little bit boils down to future money, because I kind of think that Odell Beckham was a very clear-cut candidate this offseason. This coaching staff wanted to use him. They wanted, Stefanski's been adamant about wanting to get him involved. Andrew Barry's played ball, but it was John Dorsey who went and pulled the trade for Odell Beckham, and they tried to make it work. We've spent a year plus asking why it's just not working on the field between Baker and Odell, and I think both of them, if you look at just the raw tape, it's like both of them have been culpable for some of the stuff that's happened there. But, he was going to get cut. I think his value is diminishing. There's been a narrative about the offense being better without Odell Beckham, which is an ugly narrative for Odell. And I think frustration boiled over, and he probably, was pushing to some degree to be traded before the trade deadline. I would imagine there had been some conversation of some level. And Andrew Barry's like, I'm not just going to move you because you want to be moved. We're not going to get – there's not enough value coming back in the offers that I would imagine were floated out there. And Odell Beckham's thinking, if I continue with this season and totally flatline, what's my next contract with a new team? Because there's no dead money to cut him this offseason.
Right, but you're trying to win this year. Like, that all makes sense for, okay, he's going to get cut. But what about this year?
But that
it doesn't sound like it was Odell Beckham's choice. It sounds like because of what happened on Tuesday. So you have the father. I can't believe after all they gave up for Odell Beckham back in the day, and him being like on the walls of our building, this building and our last building. That like the end.
Our art department went all in on Odell.
I don't know why
superstar.
they created an Odell Beckham in a Browns jersey in this building, but that's fine.
But also so he's that big of a star, and yet his career in Cleveland is ending with the final straw being his dad posting a video of lowlights with everybody.
That's what we
hurts.
know, though.
That's
what we know.
That was the end point. So that was part of it, and the fact Baker's talking about that was part of it, and LeBron sending the tweet was part of it. And you're right. I suspect there is more going on behind the scenes that we don't know. But based on the reporting, it sounds like Kevin Stefanski told him to stay home. So I don't know what the last straw was. Maybe they had a conversation after the trade deadline. Who knows? That didn't go well, and he said stay home. But he informed the team that Odell Beckham's essentially not part of the team. Mike Silver was the first person to report this. It's funny that they keep adding like he's been excused from practice again. Yeah, he's never coming back. That this is over.
Right. They
They apparently rejected some lame trade proposals from the Saints. Maybe it was a third-day pick, like a fourth-round pick, I've heard. And I guess you would rather have a fourth-round pick than nothing. Because right now you have nothing, but
the Browns
it sort of
on
doesn't
Tuesday that if they didn't make a trade,
right,
that he's not going to play anyway.
They did
Right.
something.
Seems like
something.
a change.
I think something changed. I don't think it's him sitting out. I have a feeling they didn't want to deal with him anymore, and they thought they were better off without him.
I
which is
think that's exactly what they think, and I think on top of it, after what happened, how do you bring him back? He's essentially publicly through
good riddance.
Right.
He's never helped this
you
team.
You cut bait with this now.
I can think of 2 games where he truly helped the team. There was a Monday night game against the Jets where he had a big touchdown, and he had that one big game last year before the ACL where he made big time plays. Otherwise, this has been a bad transaction.
I was doing a thing on Cleveland radio and was like, quick, name the top 5 Odell Beckham moments in Cleveland, and you cannot outside of what you just mentioned, Dan. So I think if anything, if there's a positive. The teammate, a lot of the players love Odell in this locker room. That's been made clear by comments. But if you can get to a point where this is something that you make a statement about who the Browns are under Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry, maybe you can rally around it too.
I think they're also just trying to get out of the money. They owe him $9 million for the rest of the year. They probably don't want to cut him and have like the Patriots, who they play in a couple weeks, or some team claim him. But if they could negotiate a settlement with him where he agrees to pass up some of that money because he wants to play football this year, I think we could see him on another
Why is he
team.
quitting the team, though?
Or agrees
he's not.
to not
they told
be.
him to stay home. I mean, he is and he isn't.
Let's not be naive here, Greg. It's not that the Browns, after deciding they weren't going to trade him, are like, don't come here anymore. He doesn't want to play for him.
Right. And I think they decided, okay, then we don't want you here if you're going to be putting these things
Right, but
out.
they're not
Or
telling
you
him
had
to
a
stay home if he's not saying, I don't want to be here.
Absolutely correct.
And it's like, what is up with that? How is that at all acceptable? I don't know.
I think they thought they could get away with like this weird last minute like trade me push, and that was like too much for Cleveland. Because by most reports, he hasn't acted, in any particular unprofessional way in the building. That he's gone, he showed up to work, he's worked, and he's just kept it quiet. And Baker Mayfield sort of alluded to it, which is, he basically said, yeah, like a conversation would be great because we haven't talked about it at all about anything.
It was never going to end well, and it's not ending well.
Let's move to the Bengals here before we move on, because they're a big story here too. I mean, you entered last week; they were 5-2, flying high on top of the AFC North, and then they just collapsed late in the fourth quarter against the Jets. If they would have, hung on for that game, you would write it off as, all right, they got in a tough spot on the road, and an unknown quarterback got hot, but they found a way to win. But when you don't find a way to pull that game out, and the defense implodes the way it did, Greg, did that change how you felt about Cincinnati at all? Or are you willing to give them a bit of a pass and see what happens this week?
I don't think they're some unbeatable team. They weren't, they were the number 1 seed in the AFC. They're one of the teams in the AFC that's frisky and competitive and is going to be in the playoff mix. I don't put them above like this whole big group. They didn't blitz Mike White at all, and they're not a blitz team. They're just a layback, rally to the ball, a lot of energy, and teams like that aren't that talented and don't have that good of a pass rush, it's like a smaller margin for error. I don't think they match up that well with the Browns because that's what Baker Mayfield wants to do. I think they want to run the ball, they want to throw it short, and I think the Browns match up pretty well against Cleveland this week.
I almost thought about locking up Cincinnati, Mark. I got to be honest, because I don't really like the general tenor of this Cleveland season anymore. And then the Romo Nance thing, the ghosts of Romo and Nance like circling the Browns. But now I'm thinking like the post Odell bump. They're going to rally in the locker room around this, so I'm going to stay away from this game and hope your team wins.
And I also would look at what happened against the Jets is Zach Taylor as a head coach. It's not all on him, but good coaches that are super experienced, their teams don't fall flat in those surprise situations.
The offense was fine. This is a situation, I think, for
they were fine, except Burrow threw another killer fourth quarter pick.
That was an incredibly fluky tipped pass that the defensive lineman made an incredible play on. It wasn't like fluky, like he made a great play, but I'm not killing him for like a 300-pound guy like lifting his arm up and catching it. That was great.
The weird thing is I didn't see Cincinnati's flat in that game. I thought
their
it was
offense
just like
good.
a weird
their defense fell apart.
Once in a year type game. The defense was bad, but I didn't see it like they were sleepwalking. They had control of that game midway through the fourth quarter. And then they just melted down.
I'm just saying it's a Jets team that had 50-plus put on them the week before.
That's what I mean. That's kind of my point, that it was kind of like a weird, funky Halloween day situation. All the players love Halloween. It's Halloween, baby!
Yeah, I think the Browns have the better roster and the better coach, but the Bengals have the better quarterback, so it's like which matters more.
If every game is this long as a preview, this will be a 7-hour show.
That was Odell Beckham's career
that was right.
Right.
That was good convo, good sports talk, guys. Let's take a break and keep moving. All right, Greg, you are up with the next pick. Maybe I'll jump you, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll jump you. Nah, I won't.
You have 2 more left,
right?
Two more
jumps. Once I make the pick, you can't jump
Can't do it. It has to be a pre-pick jump. Nope.
I'm taking the Packers and the Chiefs. I'm excited you didn't jump me because I really wanted to watch this one. There's only 3 late games, and I'm all in on the Jordan Love experience. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like they're either going to get blown out or they're going to win this game. I picked them to win on Game Picks on the website because I just have seen enough with the Chiefs where I'm starting to think we kind of know who they are roughly, and I've seen enough with Matt LaFleur that I want to give him some credit. Jordan Love is going to get a full week as the starter. He's going to get Devontae Adams back, Alan Lazard back, and possibly David Bakhtiari back, which is that last one is huge, and it sounds like he's back. When I watched Jordan Love in the preseason and for those 10 dropbacks in week 1, woo! I'm surprised people aren't more excited about him. I mean, he does it all. He's a lot. Like, he's Josh Allen maybe as a rookie, which is not great. Like, you're going to have some good and some bad. He made 2 or 3 terrible red zone plays where he showed very little awareness, and that's a problem. But his arm strength and his movement ability and some of the throws he made were like box office, and I'm kind of excited what he's going to do to see what he's going to do with a full week of prep with a good coaching staff against a bad defense. To me, this is a close game. I thought it was very disrespectful to Matt LaFleur to make the Chiefs a 7.5-point favorite. If I could lock up the Packers covering, I would lock that up. Is that allowed?
I mean, I know the desert has its reasons, so it's not like they.
Can I lock that up? That should be because we get to pick favorites.
Well, we're just doing spreads now
well,
instead
at
of
least that's
to pick a real winner.
That's
Greg.
supposed to be 50-50. We pick real winners that are favorites, so it's a less of a chance than picking.
I know, but Greg, this is
first
of all, this is a contest that you wanted to remove from the podcast.
I still do.
And now in week 9, you suddenly want to completely change the complexion of it.
We're
going
see
against
if that's allowed. Yeah.
My feeling on I think that picking the spreads in the future is something we should discuss.
Sure.
That wasn't really allowed until
it's
last
harder.
year
Is my point. That's harder.
But a discussion, Greg,
anyway,
like we all discuss, not just.
So the Aaron Rodgers story is kind of a head scratcher. I mean, we on this show and a lot of other people have gotten hard on. We've gotten upset about Kirk Cousins and his decision not to be vaccinated. And Aaron Rodgers, it's worse because it's like, well, it all depends where you come down on this. But I think it's worse because not only are you not vaccinated, which causes a lot of issues on a number of levels, you kind of hid it from people, and you hid behind some different type of wording to try to skirt around it with the media. You weren't following the protocols that you're supposed to be following on some level. And now you're missing a big game. So Packers fans who are annoyed by this, I get it.
Maybe more than one game. I mean, it was like a total nuclear bomb landing news-wise. But I am totally, flummoxed on how you tell everyone that you're immunized, and that doesn't mean what everyone would assume it means. And I guess we just let it play out.
He thought he was protected by his homeopathic solution, which he apparently, reportedly, according to our guys, Ian Rapport, applied to the NFLPA and NFL and said, "Was this homeopathic method I did to immunize myself?"
And it was rejected, though.
And it was rejected because
no, bro.
Because basically all homeopathic solutions to disease have been proven medically to be 100% false.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Like if you go,
I'm not going down that road, but Greg, that is a massive generalization about.
It's just the truth, though. Like if you go like scientific
journals.
No,
you can't say you can't.
You really can't.
You can't say that.
Scientific journals. Greg is reading.
Oh my God.
I'm saying
Greg, that was that just doesn't even apply to what we're talking about here on some level, but. Honestly, like
you're next to Mr. Homeopathic.
No,
right now,
I think that in this case,
talk to a scientist or a doctor about it.
In this case, it certainly does not apply, and like it was rejected by the league, and it is very. I mean, it is one of the weirder. It's the weirdest Corona tinge story that we've had all season.
I mean, people got a little crazy getting so like upset. To me, it was more like jokes. It's like good for jokes here. That Rodgers thinks he's smart enough that in that moment he thinks he's getting one over on everyone. That's the part where it's like you're showing who you are a little bit. Like in that moment, he is sitting there thinking, I'm getting one over on anyone because I said immunize, which, first of all, immunize is a synonym for vaccinated. So it doesn't. You still got that part wrong. And then he says immediately,
nice try, Mr. Jeopardy.
I don't think we he also said, like, I don't think that we should judge the people who aren't vaccinated, which, is as misleading as possible.
Will he be in the fallout? He's a bit of a strange guy. We all get that, but like I could think of 10 other players that would pull this same stunt, and the reactions would be different based on who they are as people.
I'm curious what kind of fallout there is, because I think about Carson Wentz as an example, another guy that is not vaccinated. That game ends last week, and they show him walking off the sideline to meet all the players at midfield and the coaches. He puts his mask on immediately. Aaron Rodgers
doesn't have to. I mean, they've kind
of
they've kind of pointed out that at least on camera, Rodgers hasn't done anything that is violating rules. The fact that he wasn't wearing it in the media room is the confusing part, but Kirk Cousins hasn't been doing that either. They just told everyone, and they're like, "Hey, we want you guys to know."
It's been like a team-by-team
thing.
But
one thing that has been proven that where he was breaking a lot of the rules is he's been going to these team parties and stuff like that. Like the Halloween parties, and that all of that actually is against the COVID rules. That if you're unvaccinated, you can't go to the indoor team functions and all that stuff. And so they do have proof of that if they want to get carried away. But I'm not carried away. No. I mean, they're gonna fine him. No, they should fine him. I'm just saying, like, they're not gonna suspend him for that.
It's a terrible job by Rodgers.
It was absolutely. Like I don't want to spend 4 years on it. It is what it is. But it's like it's not just a mulligan. It was a completely confusing comment by Aaron Rodgers, and now he's missing a key game for them.
Well, but he would have missed it most likely anyways. Everyone got worked up about the 5-day returning thing. Show me the person who's returned in 5 days, and I think that is worth noting because he might not be back for the next game. Devontae Adams, for instance, is vaccinated, did not make it back to practice until Thursday after testing positive the previous Monday. That was 10 days, and he is vaccinated. Because you know what? It's like this disease is unpredictable, and you might not test negative 2 days in a row for a solid 10 days, even if you are vaccinated. You might have symptoms.
All right.
Crazy.
It's like where he's an intelligent dude, but there's some arrogance, I think, that got into the mix here about how he's handling this and puts the team in a bad spot. All right, let's move on with the game talk. Is there anything else we think about the same? Because, the Chiefs catch a huge break here, Mark, because now you have no Aaron Rodgers, and we're excited to see Jordan Love, sure. But it's a totally different ballgame. The Packers are on a 7-game winning streak, and we're playing their best ball of the year, coming off a great primetime win over Arizona. So the Chiefs, who didn't look close to having things right on Monday night in their narrow win over the Giants, this is a real gift. Do they even know what to make of it?
It is, except I kind of, with Jordan Love, and I like what Greg said about Jordan Love, it's just like there is the element of surprise. And, you'd like to think that a first-round pick would be prepared for this moment. Yes, it's a huge, obviously not having Aaron Rodgers is a massive advantage for a Chiefs team that is simply average. They're just an average team at this point with a lot of issues. But you don't have Jared Alexander in there for the Packers. Maybe there is a chance for a bit of a bounce back here. But outside of Jordan Love, the Packers are way healthier than they have been of late. And I don't think that this is a big, huge blowout spot for Kansas City at all. Mahomes had 19 incompletions last week. I mean, they're not fixed on offense. They're a mess.
All right, let us move on. I will take the other big primetime game, Cardinals at Niners. I thought it was interesting how San Francisco's offense showed some signs of life. I thought that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't, great, but he looked healthy. He was moving well and just seemed to be a lot more comfortable than when we saw him in the monsoon against Pittsburgh the previous week. And I think that's a type of game, the win over the Bears, where they scored, I believe, on their final 7 possessions, that can really jumpstart your confidence. Like the Chiefs are an offense that desperately needs a jumpstart of their confidence to make them believe that they're special again. I think the 49ers got that last week, and they have a quarterback who now probably is breathing a little easier. He's saying, I know for this week at least, I'm not thinking about how am I going to make it through this game without getting benched. He knows he has the coach's faith. So I believe that the Niners are in a good spot at home. They don't play very well at home, but they're at a good spot at home against the Cardinals team coming off a 10-day break, first loss of the season. I'm interested to see what we see with the Cardinals here, Greg, because I don't know. I had
Really? To me, that was a great game, first of all, but a game that a lot of things went against them. In the end, if not for the A.J. Green not knowing the play call, the offense at least stepped up and would have had touchdowns in their last 3 drives when they absolutely needed them. I do worry about them without J.J. Watt because you think back to the first 49ers-Cardinals game, and J.J. Watt dominated in that game, and he's been a great run stopper. It sounds like they'll get Zaven Collins back, but it's all about Kyler Murray just playing or not. If Kyler Murray plays, I'm locking this game up, and if the injuries sound good. If he doesn't play, I'll revisit, because right now it sounds like there's a legitimate chance he might not play, which does get you a little worried. Like Kyler at less than 100%, is he still Kyler? But he has been winning a lot from the pocket this year.
We saw what happened last year when he wasn't 100%.
Yeah,
it was a different injury, obviously, but he's a guy that when everything is working together, he is almost impossible to stop. And the fact that it's something that's affecting his mobility is something to keep an eye on here.
I think it's like a legit game time decision. DeAndre Hopkins has a hamstring injury. A.J. Green's on the COVID list right now. I mean, these two met not long ago, and the score was 17-10. They were one of the few teams that were able to put the clamps on Arizona's offense when they were healthy, and I think that's notable. They know the Cardinals really well, and I think with Jimmy G, like the design runs they used with him inside the 10-yard line show that they are going to stick with him. I think at this point, why would they be pushing to put Trey Lance into the lineup right now?
He started that game against the Cardinals too. It was an interesting game where they failed on 4 different times on 4th and short, and they kind of looked like maybe the better team, the 49ers, that day with Trey Lance. So you do wonder if Maybe they'll use him at least a little bit more. They didn't use him last week.
Yeah, maybe there is a way because there seems to be, behind the scenes, Shanahan maybe not totally ready for the Trey Lance experience. He is not ready to hand the team over. But at the same time, Garoppolo can't stay healthy. So you might see Lance, even though it might not be Shanahan's decision. I kind of like the Niners here. I just got a bit of a not a lock, but I think this is a close game. I think this is a field goal game, and I could see San Francisco getting a little bit hot.
I think the 49ers are favored. Vegas is so spooked about the Murray, or it's a pick 'em right now.
All right, I have the next selection as well, and I will go with. Let's check
Dan,
in.
I got a message for you real quick.
We got a message.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Hopefully not from his son stealing more money from the wallet.
Hey guys, Larry Wessling here.
Oh.
As the NFL heads into Week 9, the real question on everyone's mind is, what's up with Tim Wessling? I mean, he made the pick last week, but is he too good to get on the podcast and say it himself? I know you guys have been clamoring for him, and the listeners have been screaming out, Timber, why have you forsaken us? Is he somehow locked in his one-bedroom ivory tower in the sky with no cell phone reception? Has he drowned in a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc in his tears after the Bengals lost to Dan's lousy Jets? I guess it'll remain a mystery. Anyway, we're taking the Cardinals. See ya.
I like it. Get deep into the interpersonal spider web that is the Wessling family.
And Greg
It's
hates
getting
that.
deeper and deeper.
Well,
No.
and Greg has been complaining for weeks and weeks that whoever he locks, someone else locks as well.
I don't
and
like doing
pulls
it.
him down.
If I'm gonna, no, they're not pulling me down. I'm pulling everyone else down at this point. But it's just nice going in if you have your own game. I like that.
All right, there you go. So the Westlings are in on the Cardinals. They better hope Kyler Murray starts as well.
Right. I don't know if they considered that part, but hopefully he plays.
Sometimes I feel like the actual picking of the games is secondary at this point for the Wessling brothers. It's a settling of scores on a weekly basis. My second pick, I have the snake, will be Vikings at Ravens in the early games. Vikings bitterly disappointing Halloween night game against the Cowboys. I mean, the offense could not get it going. The clamps were put on Kirk Cousins, who was all sorts of fired up. You could argue that perhaps Kirk Cousins was a little on tilt on Sunday night. Justin Jefferson was negated. Dalvin Cook didn't have the huge game that I thought was in play potentially coming off the bye. So they're 3-4 and in desperate need of a W. And now they go to Baltimore, a team coming off their bye, a team that is obviously been banged up and ripped up by injuries. You talked about it, Greg, that you thought Baltimore needed to make some reinforcements at the deadline. That didn't really happen, did it? I don't know. Did they do anything? I don't think they made a move.
No one did anything.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a quiet deadline. So the Ravens say, this is who we are. We're going to coach these guys up. We're going to lean on our depth. And coming off a bye, I kind of like the Ravens at home here. Not breaking news there.
No, and they do have some good injury news. Nick Boyle, who – smarter people than I always, hey, that's the best blocking tight end in the league. That guy
Nick
makes
Boyle.
their running game go. But even like the Belichicks of the world love shouting out how this guy might be the best blocking tight end in the league. So he might be back. Sammy Watkins might be back. Defensive line is still injured, and I thought it was notable when they lost their right tackle, Makari, last week because the line really fell apart against the Bengals, and that might still be a situation. But when these two teams play, they're such opposites in terms of how they try to throw the ball. As much as I like Kirk Cousins, you got to look at how he's done this year. You got to look at the stats of. I know you like ADOT, Dan.
Oh, I love it.
Average depth of target. No one throws deeper in the NFL by far than Lamar Jackson. I think 2 yards on average per throw more than anyone else, which is outrageous. I mean, they are a bombs-away offense.
He is evolved. There's no doubt about
Cousins is the total opposite. He is throwing the ball as short as he ever has in his career, and I think the shortest of any starter right now in the NFL, which when you got Justin Jefferson and Osborne who can run a little, you'd like to see them stretch it out. I don't know if that's going to be enough for them.
I hate this for the Vikings to lose to Neil Hunter because they led the league in sacks, or they were second in the league. And, Jackson has been susceptible to that. The Bengals punished him last time we watched them play. And the Vikings have scored under 20 points in 3 of their last 4 games, 7 against the Browns, 19 against the Lions. That's ridiculous. And 16 against the Cowboys. We've talked about it. When they've been good, they've been watchable. They've been in a flow, and they've been dangerous. And there are other numbers to look at with Kirk Cousins where he's got at this point, a 14-2 touchdown interception ratio, and leads the league with a 69 completion percent. I mean, it's like there are things that Kirk Cousins is doing that check out, but then they go to sleep for long drives at a time.
Their identity is shifting, and I don't know if it's necessarily a good idea. I mean, since Cook really took hold as a star, they were a run-first team, and then Cousins would do his thing when necessary, and he would have good numbers, and Cook would have great numbers, and the offense would be good. But you look at last week, for example. Cook had 18 carries for 78 yards against Dallas. I don't know. They got to run the ball more with Dalvin Cook in that game. He is the best player on your team, and 8 weeks into the season, this per ESPN, the Vikings rank 19th in the number of runs called per game, down 40%.
Because they're so bad at it, though. They're terrible at it. They are 29th in EPA in running. Like, they haven't been effective.
Well, but do you think that's something that is going to go through the whole season? I mean, you have a special talent.
They had a couple great
back.
games at it, too. It's weird, but they've been bad at it for whatever reason.
I just don't think that's a reason to go away from it and become a pass-first offense, because I don't think that's the best version of who they are.
Can I read you a quote that I saw about Cousins from Zimmer this week?
Yes.
The quote actually wasn't from this week, but it was the first time I saw it. It was from a couple weeks ago. Because they asked Mike Zimmer at The Athletic if they thought that Kirk Cousins wanted more say in the offense.
Anything you say right now, I'll believe.
He said, "I think he does. I think he's got opinions on a lot of things."
No.
These two. Talk about like.
That's such
There's a real Ricky Greg dynamic going on there.
Stop. It's not true.
He's got opinions about a lot of things.
Wow. Imagine being Kirk Cousins and hearing that.
That's maybe equal to what Odell Beckham's senior did to Baker Mayfield. It could be a little more subtle. But
that's like very close. It's a kissing cousin, if you will, to opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. Like, that's basically what he's saying. Like, your opinion doesn't – his opinion, yes, he's going to talk, but I don't listen because I don't like the guy.
And he's behind a plexiglass, wall.
One of these guys got to write a book. I would read it. All right, let's move on. Greg, you're up.
I am up, and I'm taking an early game, and I am excited to take the Falcons and the Saints. First game without Jameis Winston. I'm just curious what this team's going to be like. I always think this rivalry is fantastic. Long said the best rivalry, I thought, in the NFL. The teams aren't quite where they should be, but you guys used to give me grief. Wes would give me grief, I remember. Like, in terms of the fan base is truly hating each other, and they actually play memorable games almost every year. It's a fun rivalry, and Saints fans are going to be juiced up. They don't seem like they're that worried about Jameis Winston being gone, but I am. I think it's a pretty big downgrade, and I think the news that Michael Thomas is not returning this year is a huge letdown. It started with some sort of mismanagement and lack of trust between the Saints and Michael Thomas during last year when he played through this injury, and it continued into this offseason, and you've basically now wasted a couple years of Michael Thomas's prime. Whoever's fault that is, I don't know. I don't care, but it puts a ceiling on this offense. I'm really surprised that there's whispers this could be Trevor Siemian's job. Which it's like you're paying Taysom Hill all this money. He was the one with the competition.
Something has changed in that building with Taysom.
We'll see, though. Right. It could just be a head fake. Sean Payton's been pretty good at those over the years. So I'm waiting till Sunday to find out. I've said how I kind of enjoy this Falcons experience somewhat. So I'm just curious what this game's going to be like.
I think it's, if anything, we're going to see the way Taysom Hill has been used before to be used again, which is a big dose of him, along with Trevor Siemian, like a platoon of both of them. I'm with Dan. I think that they've probably come to the conclusion, like, do you hand the offense over to Taysom Hill alone for the rest of the season?
The weird thing is I think I would at this point. Cause
Trevor Siemian's not some better option.
Right. I like Siemian in Denver, but it's been a while, and he didn't look great. I know they won that game, but it was a tough situation. And like this matchup, for instance, great offensive line for the Saints, great defensive line. You should just be able to destroy the Falcons up front, kind of like Carolina did a week ago, like play to your strengths. And that's Taysom Hill, run the ball.
Like our excitement, and I think, Greg, we shared that to some degree, that what we had seen 3 weeks prior with Atlanta fizzled up entirely against Carolina, who had completely outmuscled them and ran the ball nonstop. And you could see the Saints almost saying, we'll do the same thing.
And, just to put a little timeline on the Michael Thomas thing, because it's easy to forget now that in 2019, pre-COVID, so everything feels like it's really long ago. But it wasn't long ago. He set the NFL record with 149 catches. And then I remember the Week 1 podcast of the 2020 season. I remember talking about it, not here, in the old studio, or actually it was in our homes, and saying that Michael Thomas hurt his ankle in Week 1. We don't know the severity. He was being chased around the locker room by the athletic trainer who wanted to look at his ankle, but he wasn't, he didn't want to get it looked at yet. And that was the injury that bothered him for the rest of that year, that led to the late surgery in June, that now has completely wiped out his 2021. So it's essentially, as Greg said, wiped out 2 years of his prime. He's going to be 29 next year with a potentially chronic ankle issue. So this might be kind of the end of Michael Thomas as a star player, and that's pretty crazy.
Might be the end of him in New Orleans, too.
But they have, so if you go look at his contract, I mean, there's legit dead money attached to him for the next 3 years. So it's a sticky situation.
And the relationship between the player and team, that, I mean, even though they said it was smoothed over, has always been a little bit dicey there too.
He was sending out tweets calling people snakes, and it sounds like he played through the injury for the right reasons. He wanted to try to help Drew Brees' final year, and then it got real sideways once we got to this offseason. He was not taking phone calls. It's a lot.
All right, Mark, you are up.
Well, I'm doing this strategically because I've got a game I'm going to be hyper-focused on. I will be hyper-focused on this because I'm professional as well, but it's going to be Buffalo at Jacksonville.
You kind of told on yourself, though, at the beginning of that.
No, I think it's just we've all said that. Greg talks about the second
you got to
game.
knock it out. If you got to knock out every game, then make your secondary game,
This is a little spicy to me because I find the Jaguars, just the whole Jaguars experience, every week there's some new explosion that happens to some team. It feels like it could always be Jacksonville, and I kind of am enjoying watching the visage of Urban Meyer no matter what's happening in any game at this point this season. There is no reason for Buffalo not to go in and completely control this game, take it out on Jacksonville, and run away with it. Their defense is there's nothing that Jacksonville is doing on offense that suggests they can give the Buffalo any sort of a problem here. I think Trevor Lawrence is stuck in a tough situation in an offense that, to me, feels to be lacking an identity. Laviska Shenault, a great receiver. Where is this guy? I like to use him more. And losing James Robinson last week killed them. This is a Buffalo game top to bottom, but there's one reason that I really, really like this. I am not locking. I don't think I'm permitted to lock it up.
You can lock up the Jaguars.
And you were killing me for this coming out of the Cooper and Cooper scenario in Dallas and Minnesota.
No, not again.
But this is the first time. Well, let's put it this way. Josh Allen versus Josh Allen. Okay? If Josh Allen, the Jaguars defender, sacks Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills quarterback, since sacks were even recorded back in 1982, there has never been an NFL player to sack a quarterback with the same exact name. So monitor this heavily. I will be. Why is that not intriguing to you on any level?
If these two Allens are involved in a big play in this game and it's a scorigami, I'll give you your props.
A sack fumble to create a scorigami.
It has
at
to
the
be
buzzer.
both. The probability of that does not exist.
I don't know. And by the way, see, you guys on Sundays, you guys try to watch too many games. That's where you guys get in trouble.
I only watch 2.
You got too many screens.
I don't.
So the mind is unable to process that much. You have one game that's your main game. You have a second game that you could clock in on and change the volumes and commercial breaks, and that's how you do it.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
That's what I do.
Hold on.
Mark has the Minority Report set up with Tom Cruise.
You have 9 games set up at the same
there's
time.
no way
I'm
he's
not,
able to process
I'm not
any
tracking
of this.
every one of them.
And you're an intelligent man, but there's a certain point where
clarifying.
you won't be able to track anything if you're trying to track too much.
My body, my rights. I'll do what I want to do. How about that? It works for me.
It's his homeopathic method.
Don't get me started on that business.
On Sundays.
What was Greg's point about homeopathic?
That it all is that
That it is 100%.
We don't need to.
A lot of it is preventative, Greg.
Yes,
it's
yes.
preventative.
No.
Medical journals.
Yeah.
I was that was joking. There was this tweet going around yesterday. It was from Wikipedia or whatever, and it was scientifically discrediting any homeopathic or alternative medicines, or else they just would be called medicines. You know,
What
that's
you
what it is.
you can't. Oh my
can believe whatever you
God.
wanna
Don't
believe.
even.
You
don't
can
It's
even
like,
whatever you
try
want.
but it's like
It's not even.
You can believe
I
what
just
you
threw a
want.
stink bomb in
everything.
here.
Yeah, I was
everything
gonna
you
do that.
say, Greg, is like this is the best team in the NFL, or this
Yeah.
is the best game. Like you're so, with conviction. That's 100%.
Very absolute on
No,
Yeah.
empathic
I was
methods.
Yeah.
taking it from a funny tweet I saw yesterday. I can't find it. You mentioned the big point spreads
Yes.
earlier. Teams with double-digit point spreads, the favorites, are 9-5 this year. So for the most part, when you get these 2 touchdown favorites, they're covering, and this one seems too low to me. I mean, to me, the Bills are maybe the best team in the NFL, and the Jaguars might be the worst team in the NFL. I think they're right there with Houston because the defense is so bad. As much as I love Geno, I mean, they made Geno look like Joe Montana out there last week. Tyrod lit him up
Montana.
in week 1. Teddy lit, like a lot of lower level quarterbacks have lit this Jaguars team up. So Josh Allen comes in, forget it.
And listen, nobody cares about your fantasy team, but a lot of people have Stephon Diggs, so I'm just going to say to Stephon Diggs, hey, Steph, how about a 10 for 140 and 2? How about you throw one of those to us?
Well, you got it from Cole Beasley a week ago, so it's
I could get something from Cole Beasley
Yes, you could.
if I get too close,
Yes, you could.
but he's not on my fantasy team.
No, he's
Stephon
not.
Diggs is. Let us move on. Mark, next to you.
Well, I have to take the late game, last one remaining here. The Chargers at the Eagles.
Not bad.
No, I like it. It's good. I want to see how the Chargers respond to what they've been through of late. I thought that they were outcoached by Bill Belichick's defense last week. 2 years in a row has made life tough on Justin Herbert. The Eagles, it's interesting because
Herbie.
with all the what was that?
Herbie.
That feels like a slightly disrespectful.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. Keep going. I apologize.
Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles defensive coordinator, this may be kind of like where this defense in theory would work because it's what we saw before where Justin Herbert has struggled in the last couple of games facing 7+ defenders in coverage. That's what they've been doing to him, and his interceptions, almost 5 of his 6 have come against non-blitzes. It's just that they're putting people way out there in the secondary and taking away options. And if this Eagles defense is going to work at all, in theory, that this strategy would work for them on that front. I don't trust that to occur. I think this is where the Chargers need to have their comeback game because I still see this as a playoff team that is working through some kinks.
Yeah, the Eagles keep getting this opportunity to get back to some relevance, and then they've usually fallen on their faces. That Raiders game a couple weeks ago, a couple times where they've had a chance to at least get back to within one game of 500. I don't trust them. When you have that big of an edge at quarterback, I start having to look for other reasons why the Chargers can't lose. Now, their offensive line has struggled with things the last couple of weeks. Really, the right side collapsed pretty repeatedly against New England, and Philly's got the front to make some things happen. Dallas Goedert certainly playing well last week. It was like a sports radio dream. Everything Eagles fans had been asking for, some more creativity from their defense, the run game, Jalen Hurts running more. Man, he's like Fields. He's not as good a runner as Fields, but man, when Hurts is in the open field, like you just want him to do that more because he's so good at it. So I'm with you. I lean Chargers in this game.
That game for Philly was like a narrative killer because you're right. It was like 236 yards rushing and everything else that people had their hair on fire. The antidote came, but I think that was fool's gold.
Yeah, I like, you want to see Justin Herbert shake out of this little mini slide and just show us that it's a slump and have a big game here. They just did nothing on offense against Patriots. And I know, when Belichick cooks up a good game plan, he could shut down anyone, but he had 143 yards passing before that garbage time drive. And if you look at their week-to-week scoring on offense, they've been very hit or miss, which I don't think anybody was expecting. But I think they're okay. I think they'll take care of business here. And, Greggy, you are up next after this break. All right, welcome back. I'm jumping you, baby. Oh,
wait for my second pick?
Oh, I'm jumping you, baby.
Ooh,
it's a jump, baby.
Deep in the draft.
We're grabbing Pat's Panthers.
Yes.
Oh, we're grabbing them. I jumped you, baby. That's 2.
All right.
I'm not watching Texans at Dolphins.
I don't want to disappoint you because you won't believe me, but I was not drafting the Patriots. because
Ouch, that's
want
tough for Dan's front office
I don't want
to hear,
the stress. I don't want the stress. That's why I would have taken them first.
You went and got what you
needed.
There's one you don't need to
fun
worry
game
about
left. I personally, as a Patriots fan, kind of go every other week. I like to watch them on Game Pass. It's not a new trend.
Zone.
It's the truth.
Spin
and
zone.
there's one very good game left still.
Greg, I don't know if you've noticed this season. I've been on the Patriots. I like the Patriots.
I know, it's
like
weird.
this team.
It's a little weird. Although you did lock against them last week.
I locked against them, but you know what? I learned a lesson there.
Don't lock against them.
I was like, I thought they were a team. I thought they were frisky entering last week, but I guess I learned that maybe I shouldn't be so high on the Chargers because I kind of got behind this idea that LA was going to shake off a bad game and kick some ass at home, but the Chargers let me down there. So I'm moving off the Chargers. And I'll tell you what, how about this for a make good? I'm going to lock up the Pats on the road in Carolina because I think, and I don't know if Sam Darnold's starting. I don't know if it's
He's been at practice.
He's got the shoulder injury. He's got a concussion he's coming off.
P.J. Walker was practicing with first
P.J. Walker. And
snaps.
I can tell you this. I'll tell you some advanced scouting the old Zeuser did over the past 30 years. Bill Belichick knows how to coach against Sam Darnold. So if Sam Darnold's a quarterback, I'm feeling real good about Belichick going down there and scheming up something to confuse a slumping Sam Darnold. And if the kid from Temple's playing, oh, my goodness, it's going to be a bloodbath. So I am feeling good about the Pats. I thought it was interesting that Mac Jones struggled as much as he did last week, and they still found a way to beat a quality opponent on the road. That shows you that the Patriots are kind of putting something together here. And when you look at a muddled AFC wildcard picture, I think the Patriots are going to end up in one of those spots, Greg, and you're going to get to watch a January playoff game. I'm getting ahead of myself, obviously, but I think the reason I think they will do that is these are the type of games they will take advantage of and take care of a win in Carolina.
Well, they're certainly improving on offense and possibly on defense. That was one of their best defensive performances a year ago. I think Matt Rule has watched so much Bill Belichick over the years. He's such a fanboy. It's not weird. It makes total sense. He grew up as a Giants fan. He grew up as a kid. He's 46 years old now, so that puts him at the age that he was watching the height of Bill Belichick as a defensive coordinator. And when he's talking about, like, I just want to run the ball and play defense, it's like, I believe him that with the team that he has now, he thinks that's the best way to win. I'm sure Belichick enjoyed that tape last week, like watching the Panthers run 47 times and just impose their will on Atlanta, up until the moment that Stephon Gilmore made that interception. And then he's like, oh, yeah, that would be good. Like,
shoot, a Steph Gilmore revenge game.
That was an ugly final
that.
note. Yes.
Right. It'd be like, oh, yeah, wait. Oh, the guy that said, let me take on Kyle Pitts and then shuts Kyle Pitts down. I missed Stephon Gilmore enough. I went back and watched those snaps from Gilmore. We got this nice little feature I got to show you guys. And he's physical. He did a good job. He's only playing like 20 snaps, and they said that might be the case again this week, which is a little weird. So he'll be like a tight end, third down type of stopper. But the way you beat Carolina in this pass rush is to run the ball at them. So I could just see a lot of running from both teams, and that tends to lead to like close games, long drives.
I know who I'm picking there.
I'm with you. I think the Patriots will win, but I could see you sweating it out in a defensive type of game into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like I put a note like over/under rushing attempts in this game 90. I mean, they both kind of want to do the same thing.
Well,
Christian
right.
McCaffrey could be. We'll wait and see, but there's a chance he could play. Right,
He
that would be
practiced
huge.
Thursday, and the thing with McCaffrey, if he plays this week, I would be stunned if he has like a big workload. But again, they've botched Christian McCaffrey for 2 years in terms of how to handle his health. So who knows how they're going to play this. It would have totally surprised me if they gave him the ball 30 times also.
No.
That wouldn't stun me either, although it's pretty apparent that Chuba Hubbard's a pretty good backup, that you should have some type of A-B attack if he returns. But we're not even sure he's returning.
I think he's not going to.
Because Matt Rule said at the beginning of this week, he was very open-ended with it. He says, yeah, he'll probably practice this week. He could return week 9 or week 10. So it's very open-ended at this time whether he's even playing.
I think with or without him, like this is a team going through a complete metamorphosis on offense, Carolina. And
Are
like
you guys hearing that? Sorry to cut you off, Mark.
Yeah.
Are you hearing the lock-off we're about to have?
Oh,
I'm putting the Tamposi curse on the Panthers, which means the Pats will win.
Wait, no.
Yes.
No.
Yes, baby.
Wait, that's not a lock.
That's not a lock-off.
Why? I'm locking the
She's
Panthers.
picking Carolina because
Oh,
in
you
real
are.
life, the Patriots will
Right.
prevail.
Oh, you dastardly woman.
Yes, Jack, bring me a $20 bill. Let's
Oh,
go.
Look at you.
Let's go,
So
baby.
how do I feel about this?
According to you just
Every
know
team
that
I
you will
pick,
lose
every team I
from the lock
pick.
angle.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't. I'm so far back. Yeah, there's no
wow,
chance.
I
this
don't love
is
that mentality
really
from Erica, but it makes some sense.
You know?
Interesting. So is this put me in a good spot or a bad spot?
In a good spot.
Because
Yeah.
I'm going against Erica, but I'm not really going against her because she's actually locking the Patriots.
No.
it's
But
good
she's
for you.
locking the Panthers.
It's
Every
good for you.
team I lock loses, so I lose. So I'm locking the Panthers, so the Panthers
I
will
know. I
lose.
see what you're saying.
So the Patriots will
But you
win.
got
You'll
me
win
caught
your
up in the
lock.
voodoo.
You'll win your lock.
Okay.
Or how about the door number 3? Be totally unconcerned with the entire thing and just do your business.
All right,
Okay,
good.
Greg.
There you go. Mark.
What?
What were you saying? All right.
I have no idea.
All right,
at this
then let's
point.
move on.
Forget about it.
All right, Greg, you have the final pick of the draft. You could choose between the Texans and Dolphins, battle of 1 and 7s, or the Broncos Cowboys. I think I know where you're going.
Wait, did I miss the Raiders Giants being picked?
Oh, Raiders
No,
Giants.
you did not. That
My
was.
fault.
This maybe,
Oh, yeah,
looks
good
like
for
your
you.
Raiders were available. That's a good backup game.
That's
That was my plan all along. That was my
It's a weird
draft.
time to be watching the Raiders. I don't know, man. And the Giants, I just watch them in prime time. I could use a little bit of a break for an extra day.
I mean, Henry Ruggs has been released by the team since we last recorded. It's a brutal story. I thought Rich Bisaccia and Derek Carr talking about everything was, they were about as well spoken as you could be on it. I mean, it's bigger than football. He's not on the team. I don't know. There's not much more to talk about with that. It's not like
I mean, the guy
he was going 156 miles an hour. That happens. There's nothing more you can say. Saying that's horrible. Of course, it's horrible. It's just a tragedy.
It's unbelievable when you kind of just factor everything, the sadness of it. I mean, the fact that this woman dies just driving home to her parents' house. Just minding her own business. It's just a terrible thing. And then for this guy to have so much potential in his life and be so set up, both from a professional standpoint and being able to help his family with the money he was going to make, and he ruins his life. He takes a life, and it's all just. I mean, it's one of the saddest stories in a long time.
Yeah, it's like I think we're all completely on the same page and in lockstep that it is it's the immense tragedy.
He was the first wide receiver picked in last year's draft.
Well, and also you look at that, from a football angle, that their 2020 draft is an absolute mess at this point. But that has nothing to do with what happened with Henry Ruggs. It's a total tragedy, and the Raiders have been through so much this season, so much tumult. They do seem like a team that sticks together no matter what. I am locking up the Raiders in this game. I'm not sure how I feel about that. That could change at this point between now and Sunday. But something about the Giants, it's like there's always going to be 4 or 5 people not in the lineup. They're getting a little bit healthier.
Yeah.
They're a little spicy and dangerous too, and they're showing you things. And Daniel Jones feels like the real deal. I think Patrick Graham did some nice stuff against the Chiefs as a defensive coordinator as well. But I'm going to go Raiders here.
I mean, that is it's a safe lock, but at the same time, there's so much going on with the Raiders right now. Before you factor in,
is it safe?
Before you, well, just on a 5-2 going against a 2-6, but then the fact that they're traveling cross country, the Raiders typically aren't very good at that, and all the things going on behind the scenes. This has to have been a really difficult week in that building. The way things have unfolded, it's really man.
It's
hard to believe.
Right, there's nothing. You can just look at what Henry Ruggs, if you want to, meant to the offense, which I think is worth mentioning, how well he was playing. He was easily their most dynamic outside receiver. He was on pace for 1,000 yards. He had been living up to kind of the promise that they expected in him, and so he's not going to be an easy person to replace on the field either. It is worth mentioning. That said, when the Raiders play against a team, I kind of look at the opposition's line play. Like, can they get after Derek Carr? Because that's kind of their weakness. No, the Giants can't really. And can they hold up against this really good Raiders pass rush? I don't know if the Giants can do that.
Not their line.
I think the Raiders are a much better team. I'm kind of with you.
Where are we at on Saquon?
What
What is his situation?
He might be returning this week. It sounds like Tony is probably a go. We're not. Galladay sounds less likely.
Shepard's not gonna
up
play.
in. Yeah.
Well, they've got all this. Like, it
The
sounds like Saquon could have been a false positive, along with some other Giants players too. Dr. Sills actually weighed in on that, so
There's
that's a TBD.
Right. There's a lot going on with them, but it's funny because we go through this every Thursday. It's like, which Giants are playing, but you can't account for the Giants who are all going to get hurt in the first quarter.
Right.
Like you can't like put that on the list, and that happens every week. It's really crazy.
Let's see. Yeah. So Saquon tested negative for COVID on Wednesday, and then let's see. Well, they kind of.
That's
a guy
murky.
trying to get back
they
on the
closed
field,
down their whole complex.
so he can't practice. I don't know.
Joe Judge doing press conferences in the parking lot.
What a mess that year's been for them.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through the rest of the games. Yes, we'll start with the Broncos at the Cowboys. The Broncos just traded away the face of the franchise, Von Miller. Now they go to Dallas to face a Cowboy team that should have Dak Prescott back on the field. I don't like how this is going to go for the Broncos.
No, it should be terrible. They got this 1 week break against Washington defensively. The Broncos defense, that is, and then you got to go to Dallas. Now they're going to be without Tyron Smith, it sounds like, but Dak Prescott is going to play, and you just think that any team with a good running game can run through this Broncos squad. They're so soft up front that you just figured Dallas is going to be able to run for about 225. And just when you think the offense for Denver maybe at least was getting healthier, they got Judy back, they got Okwuegbunam back. Their left tackle, Garrett Bowles, is on IR now, and Noah Fant, their tight end, got COVID. So even their good kind of injury news on offense has been taken away.
I don't chalk up the win over Washington as just an invisible feather that no one needs to care about. I mean, I think it was what the Broncos under Fangio kind of wanted to be. A smothering defense and just enough from Teddy Bridgewater, but it almost wasn't enough. There was enough hijinks at the end of that game where it was nearly just a loss. So it's like I don't really trust Denver to do much of anything, and Dallas is simply too overpowering.
One last thing about Dallas, just before we move on. Last week's game really showed me they're looking to give Mike McCarthy credit.
Mm-hmm. Are we doing that yet?
I think we should at this
point. I'm going to
good.
Here's where the credit is. I love the philosophy in that game that they threw more than double the amount of 20-yard throws of Minnesota. They had more than double the amount of passing first downs. They had more than double of explosive plays with Cooper Rush. They were down in that game, and they were letting Cooper Rush throw on traditional running downs, like aggressive plays. That's aggressive. That's like, hey, we believe in our backup, and we know where our talent is. It's on offense.
I think that's also Kellen Moore.
Sure, but you got to give McCarthy gets
Kellen Moore is letting his coordinators coordinate.
Right. I'm saying he wants to be aggressive, I think, offensively, or else they wouldn't be.
It annoys everybody that hates Mike McCarthy, which is two guys in this room, but he's
Hate
done a great job.
Strong
He's
word.
put together a good coaching staff. He's he knows how to do this. He knows how to be a head coach at this level, and they're thriving as a group, a collective group.
I've been questioning
just because
him.
You thought he was hot from a certain angle
right,
in July for some reason. You really
questioning the Mike McCarthy experience coming into this season was not untoward.
It's just a thing. It's a thing in football culture. There's certain guys stink and are bad, and then when they have really good seasons, it's never them. It's the guys that are underneath him, and it's
you know
McCarthy
what it is? It's
because
his biggest weakness is game management, and that's definitely the easiest thing to pick on.
He flamed out hard in Green Bay, and then had this so-called awakening during his year away. And
now he's coaching arguably the best team in football.
With I think two coordinators who could win co-assistant coach of the years. I mean, Dan Quinn has been a big difference. He did.
Were they handed to him?
He is doing what you should do.
Maybe.
He's delegating well, and he's doing a good job.
Do you think he ever has conversations with either of his coordinators?
Never.
Or is he just up in an ivory tower somewhere at the Star?
Ivory tower.
Although you could at least make the argument though that
go ahead.
Did he hire them? Because Jerry Jones kind of makes he hired Kellen Moore. It's not like McCarthy did. And then Jerry Jones.
I would say
Dan
he
Quinn.
is giving Kellen Moore a ton of autonomy, which I think is a sign of a good.
I would
situation.
say this because we know exactly what's going on in the building. Obviously, you guys do at least. I will say this: maybe when we have our hot butt conversation on next week's show for the coaches, we should have a conversation about McCarthy because obviously he's not someone that's worthy of even being a head coach potentially right now.
I mean, I think
But
he has more of a.
This is a straw man.
No, it's not, because I think he has more of a chance of losing his job after this year than you do. I think there is a chance.
How many sandwiches do you want to put on?
I would be surprised. At this point, the
only way that scenario works is if Kellen Moore is getting offers and Jerry just decides to make a change. It's like they lose in the divisional round, and Kellen Moore gets offers, and Jerry's like, "Sorry, Mike."
All right, let's take a break and then finish out. All right, here we go. Texans at Dolphins, 2 1-7s, going to war.
We should put a clock on this.
Going to war.
strong.
Let's do 1 minute on this game. You start, Mark.
What game is it? I was
Wow.
Texans,
All right.
Dolphins. Tyrod's
completely
back.
caught.
Tyrod's back.
That makes a difference.
It really does. I was a little surprised it only made like a point or two difference in the point spread. I was like, Tyrod's got to be worth at least 3 or 4 over Davis Mills. He gives him a chance.
2 most depressing teams in the AFC potentially.
Yeah, the Dolphins are. I agree. The Dolphins have been hit by third down.
I think that's a
regression.
good point, Mark.
If you're into analytics,
No?
that like third down performance is not predictive year to year. The Dolphins are a great example. They were first or second 2 straight years under Flores, and now they're 29th or 30th on defense.
Well, how about this?
Their stuff has not worked on third downs.
Tua, you've had a rough ride this year. You've been dealt a bad
I
hand
don't want to be around
with all the
anymore.
Deshaun Watson stuff. The good news is he is not going to be in your building, at least not for the next 6 months or so. So now is your opportunity to give yourself a shot to make a statement, and you don't get a better stage than home against the Texans, the worst team in football. Kick some ass, Tua.
They were not the worst team in football when Tyrod was on the field, when he was hurt against Cleveland in that early season work. They were completely different on offense.
He played 6 great quarters.
Right.
Whether that translates now, this team somehow seems worse, but we'll see.
I just wonder if the Dolphins are also maybe like the perfect person to go deal with on that front too if you're Houston.
Like Tunsil's not there, Ingram's not there. You know, they've lost some people too.
All right. I think we got everybody. We got all the games. Good stuff. Again, check out the TNF recap. That will be in your podcast service of note. We will recap all the games that we just previewed on Sunday night, the flagship podcast, and the Around the NFL broadcast on NFL Network, a 2-hour program in which we go around the NFL, hitting all 32 teams, 2 minutes per team. We have fun. You should check that show out. It airs Saturday mornings with a re-air, I believe, so find it, watch it, consume it, and call your local cable operator to let them know how much you enjoy it.
Is that still
Well, you don't have to do that.
That sounds like a chore.
Yeah.
Usually they're like,
I
call
want
your
my
operator
MTV.
and say, yeah, like, get me NFL Network. It'd be funny if just a lot of people were just like, hey, I really like that Around the NFL. Well, I don't know what that would
It's
do. But that would
Everyone call your local cable operator and demand NFL Network. It's like, I want NFL Network. You have it. It's in your package. It's under the sports tier. It's channel 271. Oh, okay.
You're set
Thank
to
you.
go. Nice conversation.
All right, good. Good stuff. Ricky, I didn't get your insight. I know you're not a parent.
Yep.
But you're a smart person. How do I handle Jack?
I really think the sentiment's really nice, but you gotta nip that in the bud. You can't be going in your wallet. You gotta.
So what are you saying I do? Get
you
the
gotta,
ruler out?
take the belt off and teach him
Yeah,
a
that
lesson.
got Adrian Peterson run out of the league.
Yeah, that's true. But he's back.
Erica, ready to do some hardcore
No.
parenting.
But I mean, you can be scary.
I like Erica as like a Catholic school nun in her former life, just wailing away on kids.
Jeez.
You got to.
Just like going off.
I mean,
Is that your past?
no.
Oh,
I was
okay.
never hit. I did get hot pepper in my mouth if I swore though.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Versus soap, which I don't remember actually.
But
having.
hot
It's
pepper
just
was
a
brutal.
lifestyle.
That like my mom would chase us around and then she'd grab your cheeks and she'd push them together and she'd literally dump hot pepper flakes in your mouth and it burned like hell.
It's like they did that stuff in like medieval times to like punish people who stole fruit.
Yeah, now I'm not gonna be able to get my mom on the phone because like child services is gonna be coming after her after this.
Clearly, her methods worked with you, Erica.
All right.
Hey, off.
All right, here we go. That's it. Dan Hansa signing off for Quiet Storm, the old boss, Ricky's sister, Mary Catherine Tamposi, everybody behind the glass, the grave digger, feeling confident, but thinks his team's going to get a 40 burger put on it nearly. So how confident can he really be? I don't know. We'll see.
Not at all.
It's sort of
doesn't even have
mixed
covering.
messages.
That's just,
What really disappoints Greg is that you don't have the Titans covered.
yeah.
Justin. All right. Till Sunday, heed that call.